Part of what I'd like to talk today about is about phrasing things in terms of win conditions. This is one of the techniques that comes up in solution-focused therapy, and it's something that I use quite a bit with my clients. It's been reworded by me to try to make sense of things in a 21st century language. Solution-focused therapy is a few decades old, and trying to phrase things in terms of how you're going to win as opposed to how you're not going to lose. And it may seem like it's a simple switch, but it's a very powerful reframe that helps us to really consider how to move forward instead of how to stall. And so as simple as that sounds, a good deal, perhaps 80% of the thoughts that you have are focusing on not losing. And so if you look at, I don't want to be rejected, I don't want to be abandoned, I don't want people to think I'm dumb, I don't want to fail, I don't want to go backwards. All of these things are don'ts, and anything that's got a negation in that is going to be in an attempt to try to avoid something bad. It's trying to not lose as opposed to actively winning. And one of the examples I like to use in consultation calls with clients is to be able to talk about if you're trying to get to Niagara Falls and you're plugging into your GPS how to get to Niagara Falls, can you actually get there by telling your GPS where you don't want to go, where you want to avoid? That if Niagara Falls is winning, can you get there by not losing? And the answer is no. You could spend the rest of your life coming up with all of the other destinations. I don't want to go to Beijing. I don't want to go to New York. I don't want to go to Washington. I don't want to go to Paris. I don't want to go to all of these other places. And you could end up listing an unending list of places that you don't want to go to and still not end up at Niagara Falls. And the problem, or a second problem with looking at it this way, is that you don't even consider the places that you didn't know to avoid that are also places that you don't want to go. So not only does it require you to know like the approximation of where you don't want to go, like Toronto is next to Niagara Falls, and it's not quite Toronto. I don't want to be at Toronto. That gets pretty close, but we also don't think like I don't want to go to the moon. I don't want to go to Alpha Centauri. Like, the universe is pretty big, and there's a whole bunch of stuff out there that you don't want, in whether that's in a relationship or that's in a career or any number of different things that you could not want things about. It's really incumbent on us to try to identify the win condition of what is actual success going to look like. How are you going to win? If you're trying to play a sports game and you're playing not to lose, the best that you can do is to draw or to create a stalemate.
You can tie. If you tried to end a game in a tie in the United States, heck, that might be listed in Revelations as the cause for the apocalypse.
So if you don't lose and you don't go off sides and you don't have a penalty and you don't let the other team score and you don't make a mistake, the very best that you can hope for is that the game stalls out. And that's if you play perfectly. If you play perfectly, not losing, nobody wins. The upshot of trying to win is that even if you don't completely win, if you're not perfect at winning, you can still win. And that's one of the major benefits of looking at things in this frame of context, especially when you're going for a career or you're trying to go for a relationship and you're focusing on, okay, well, what do I have to offer? What is something that I could offer to the team? And the team might just be you. It might be the series of yous that's going to be in the future that you're contributing to. What is it that those folks could use? It's going to be very likely that the do want as opposed to the don't want, the win condition as opposed to the lose condition is, I want to be somebody worthy of respect. I want to be the kind of person who actively listens. I want to make people feel important, or at least want to offer the different things in conversations that make people feel important. I want to make sure that I'm trying to be considerate, or not those things, depending on the kind of relationship that you would like to have. The idea might be that you're aiming for, I want to have hard boundaries. I want to make sure that I'm pushing for an aggressive deadline getting done. I want to make sure that I communicate myself urgently, and that those are in the direction of converging on something. And a win condition converges on the win. A lose condition diverges from a loss, which means that there is one thing that looks like winning and we're trying to get there, and that avoiding losing, what that does is it says there's an unlimited number of options of not losing. But a whole bunch of those things don't necessarily mean that just because there's so many of ways not to lose doesn't mean that any of those are actually converging on trying to win. And so whether you're trying to win a relationship or an interview or a promotion, or you're trying to win making some friends, or any number of different things like that, we'd like to try to be considerate of how can we conspire to be in our best interest. Another example of this I use is the bear in the cabin analogy. And so how this works is it sort of illustrates where you put the goal. So if you have a win condition, the goal is in front of you. And this is a lot of how perfectionism works, where I'll give the case of not perfectionism first. If there's a bear that's chasing you back here, and you're here, and there is a cabin that if you get to, you're going to be safe. And the win condition is, can you get to the cabin before the bear gets to you? And that's converging on safety. We know that there is a safe thing to get to, and it's a cabin. And the goal is ahead of us. If we try not to lose in this situation, what we're going to say is that the goal is behind us. The goal is, don't let the bear catch you, which is a negation. It's a don't. It's a not. And what's going to happen is, in order for the bear not to catch you, you're going to run. And then the bear is going to chase you. And then you're going to run. And then the bear is going to chase you. And then you're going to run. And the bear is going to chase you. And in order for the bear not to catch you, the bear either requires to give up, or you require to keep running indefinitely if the bear has the stamina to keep up with you. And what ends up happening is, you run 3 miles, but the cabin was only 100 meters away from you at the beginning. So you way overexerted yourself trying to do a whole lot more than was required of you. And that's what ends up happening a lot with folks with perfectionism, is that the goal is behind you, where it's, I don't want to lose. I don't want to fail. I don't want to become that person that gets picked on or gets bullied. I don't want to be the failure my father always told me that I was going to be, or insert the blank. We've all got something that we're carrying around inside of us that can push us in that direction. And it's just really important to be very explicit about what it is that you're moving toward. If you're trying to avoid failure, or you're trying to avoid something bad happening, it ends up being the case that we can end up overexerting ourselves and still not feeling like we succeed. So a lot of perfectionists, and you see this a lot in like the billionaires that still feel poor or still go to work every day, and it's not necessarily for the joy of the work. It's like there's a frantic sense of energy and urgency. It's like, even though they have the billions or the millions, they're not really enjoying themselves. And like, well, what was the point of all of that success? And it doesn't feel like success, because the goal wasn't in front of them ever. It was always trying to catch up with them, zipping up from behind. Another way of considering this, or how this dynamic can be helpful and practical in people's experience, is imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome happens when you fail to define a win condition. And so what happens is, you're playing whatever game it is that you're playing, whether it's dating, or you're doing something at work, or you get an interview, or you're getting good at a hobby, but you're not actually trying to do specifically something. You're just sort of doing anything to try to be useful. And what happens is that occasionally an accidental success will happen externally. People will say, hey, good job. You did a good job there. Like, keep doing that. And internally you're like, oh no, I don't know what I was doing. That just happened by accident. I was working really, really hard and just stretching myself really thin, but I don't actually know what I was doing there. I didn't have a win condition. I don't know how to reproduce those results. And so imposter syndrome happens when you have the work ethic, but you're not converging on something. You don't know what it is that you're solving for. And so it's really incumbent on us to try to make whatever it is that you're trying to win in alignment with your values. And if you do that, that's the surest fire way that we have as solution-focused therapists to be able to help you to actually feel like, ooh, I've got something that's going on here. We do know that if you're in alignment with your values, our positive emotions are lagging indicators of value. So if you're doing something that's worthwhile, that's valuable, that's going to lead to positive emotions. Strength, confidence, inspiration, enthusiasm, motivation, all of those come after you do something that's worthwhile. They don't come before. You don't feel motivated and then do something that's worthwhile. You do something that's worthwhile and then you feel like, oh, that was worthwhile. Like, I ought to do that again. That's probably good for me. And then it motivates you. It gives you energy to keep doing it. What can happen is, like, for solution-focused therapy, if we are trying to aim at converging on something, can we make it the smallest thing that you're willing to do that's going to be converging on success? And so the first action that you take is going to require you to have the willpower to move forward on that without motivation, because there is no motivation at the start. There's only an idea that this thing might be valuable. And the first thing that you may be willing to do is just to think about it, to brainstorm it, to talk to a friend about it. And just when you think about, like, you know what, maybe it would be worth opening up my own business, or maybe it would be worth, like, asking this person out and just seeing what happens. Maybe it would be worth insert the blank. If you just think about it, there's a certain amount of, like, oh yeah, I can kind of see how that might work. That might go in my direction. That might be helpful. And then it's easier to take an action. And then it's easier to make a plan. And then it's easier to act on that plan. And stuff comes out of it from there. It does get stuck where if you just stay stuck in the thinking about it phase, eventually you're not getting any motivation from that, because you teach yourself to know better that just thinking about something isn't valuable. It requires you to act on it. So when you first decide, hey, I'm going in the direction of something that looks valuable to me, follow up on that. And that's going to give you the best starting energy that you're going to have. And the point isn't to try to get to the end zone where from the beginning you're aiming for being married for 20 years and that you're with your soulmate. The first attempt is just going to be like, hey, what's step one look like? If I'm putting one foot in front of the other and I'm not thinking about where I'm going to be in 50,000 steps, what's step one look like? And if you can find the value in taking that first step, the rest of the steps make it a lot easier to go. That first step is the hardest. I hope this reframe helps, trying to aim for win conditions instead of lose conditions. Really try to screen out all of the nots that are in your language. I don't want, this is not what I want, I should not, I have to avoid. Anything that's trying to avoid a negative outcome as opposed to converging on a positive one. We really want that to stand out in our mind and to be able to screen that and look at that and question it, and to move in the other direction, to consistently look at trying to substitute that out. When that becomes the default, when that becomes the thing it's just sort of naturally coming out of you, and it's like, oh, that looks cool, I'm going to do this about that, and that seems pretty neat too, I like talking to that person, let me invite that person to coffee. You become action oriented and you have a bias to action, and it becomes easier and easier to make movements towards what it is that are important to you. That's the premise of, one of the premises of solution-focused therapy, and with cognitive reframing, is moving from don't to do. I hope that helps. We'll be covering other techniques and other strategies to consider. Please feel free to like and subscribe if you felt like that was helpful. Looking forward to showing you more. I'll see you in the next one.